Help us. We have teenage kids. All we're doing is arguing about these things. We really don't even know what it's doing to them. We don't know anything about what the brain, we don't know any of that stuff. All we know is what we're seeing physically, we don't like.
When I think back to when we were sitting in restaurants and we just thought, we want to be able to talk, we want to be able to, like, especially if you're with other adults, you think, I want to be able to enjoy this conversation and not have my kid be bored.
But what happens is it just creeps into everyday life so quickly that you really don't even see it coming.
The fact that Bill Gates and all of those tech gurus don't allow their children to use these, and that they send them to schools that purposefully don't, tells me everything.
We pretty much thought we knew what we were doing. We, handed the phone, typical on a birthday, said, here you go, we're gonna have restrictions. We didn't it wasn't a free-for-all, so we kind of felt like we had control over it. We would check it, but the problem is, once you give your child the phone, there's really no going back.
And what we really lost was presence. And that power of presence with your kids.
I feel like I'm really grateful that Screen Strong was introduced to us pretty early in Harper's life, but I am sad when I think of those first couple of years when we just thought, well, we're going on a road trip or we're going to a restaurant, and that's what we thought we needed to do. A lot of times we think we're doing the right thing by giving the screen and helping them be entertained, and it's just important for us to be educated and hear what the outcome is when kids just get addicted to these things. I think as adults it's hard enough for us to not become addicted to them, so it's just even worse if it starts at such a young age.
It's not a restriction so much as it is a replacement. When you are taking the phone away, you're actually replacing it with some amazing things. I find that they will 9 times out of 10 go outside, they will find something to do, they will play basketball, they love to swing on the swings.
And I truly feel like there are mood changes that I see happen, even if it's just watching a TV show. If we will start it in the morning, like if we give them a show on a Saturday morning, I see a mood change every single time. And so we just weren't made for all of this screen time, and they can learn all of these amazing skills by not being on the screen, and it's okay to let them be bored.
What Screen Strong did for us was a complete paradigm shift about what's happening in the brains, the brain science behind all of this. And knowing that really just kind of firmly more cements our resolve to take good care of our kids when it comes to the screens.
I'll fully acknowledge that my home might be a little bit neater if we did iPads. We definitely have a lot of crafts and a lot of paper and cardboard boxes, and but when I think about the benefit, it's so worth it. It's been really cool to see the way their minds can work if we give them the chance.
Since we've had Screen Strong into our lives and Melanie's really been involved, we've got presence back in the lives of our kids, and it's been an amazing fruit that's come from this.
Definitely.
I try to look at the long-term goal here, and I think that in the end, you'll never regret limiting screens. It'll never be something that you regret.
Hey everyone, can you hear me? Yes. All right, so I know that we got started a little late and we still have folks filtering in, but I don't want to delay this any further. My name's Missy Karwowski. I'm the director of MFRL Academy. If you have not checked it out yet, we are the educational content creation company from Moms for Liberty Foundation. We provide content based on any topics, issues, politics that impact kids, schools, and parental rights. Of course, this is what Moms for Liberty is all about. So strongly encourage you to check it out at mforlacademy.org. This fall, we're focusing heavily on health, physical health, and mental health, and shifting into a look at technology and how that is impacting our kids, which is why I'm super excited to bring you.
Wow, that's much louder. All right, you can definitely hear me now. So we're focusing on technology, in particular screens. social media, gaming, it is a big onion when you start peeling back those layers. So I am particularly excited because it can feel a little hopeless sometimes, but we are bringing you hope because we have an incredible solution with Screen Strong. And so without further ado, I'm not even going to tell you other than she has an amazing story that she can share. I want her to have as much time as possible to talk to you about everything. Melanie Hempy.
Oh, thank you, Missy. Thank you. I need to know you more. I need to know you better. Okay, here we go. Let me get. Okay, so thank you so much, and thanks everyone for coming. My name is Melanie Hempy. I'm a registered nurse, graduated from Emory University, and I thought I was so smart and so able to raise 4 children, and boy, did I learn a lot. So today you're going to hear just for a few minutes about our story, about Screen Strong and how it got started, and about my oldest son and what happened in our home. And I'm going to go through a very quick tour of our educational material with y'all. We'll go through some brain science and some reasons why kids get addicted to screens. We'll talk a little bit about video games, a little bit about social media. And then we're going to end with some solutions because we're all about solutions. We have a booth. If you want to stop by, you can see our curriculum. And Amy in the red there, Amy is my helper, and she's going to be here all weekend, so you can talk to her. So what is Screen Strong and why do we get started? Like I said, I am a registered nurse. I thought I knew what I was doing when I was raising my kids. I had my first son, and what ended up happening was he got very addicted to video games right under my nose, right under our roof. How many of y'all have boys? So, okay, so you probably know what video games are. Everybody's shaking their head. I was that mom, and my husband and I, we just thought that gaming was something that boys did. It was a rite of passage, and it was like little girls, you know, wore tutus and were ballerinas, and little boys played video games, and they were going to be game designers and whatnot. And little did I know that it was forming an addiction in my son. And so what happened all through middle school, he started trading his sports and all his interests for his video games. And then in high school, in 9th grade, the school issued a laptop, and that was the end of the mom, you know, trying to control the game time, because then he had a laptop for 24 hours a day. And we were in a small school. My husband works at a school. It was very devastating to our family because I was the game cop mom, if you know what that is, where you're setting the kitchen timer and you're constantly arguing and fighting with your kids about screen time. And I'm not going to lie, it was like the biggest frustration in our house. If y'all know what I'm feeling, my pain over here, if you can feel that a little bit. The conflicts, you know, my husband would even call me on the way home. He better not be on that game when I get home. I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do about it? And so when he got that laptop in 9th grade, everything turned, and he quit all his sports, he quit all his activities, and all he wanted to do was play games. Well, at the time, all my friends were telling me that, you know, this is what boys do, right? This is just what they do. And at least you know where he is, and he's not getting hurt, you know, so we thought. And, you know, he'll be fine. Melanie, at least he's not drinking and doing drugs and getting anyone pregnant. And I'm like, okay, is this the bar right here, right? This, you know, I thought we were trying to raise an adult, but now I'm thinking, oh, he's not getting drunk, so that must be a good thing. So it was so frustrating. I sent him to college. You know, we were so excited. He had 7 AP classes. He went into NC State. In the engineering department, he was straight A kid, all right? I'm not talking about, we didn't have any warning signs about his grades. So it was so frustrating because we had no idea what was going to happen after that first year of school. We went to pick him up. We go into his dorm, and it's like, what is happening? Like, it was awful. It looked like a drug addict was living in this room. I mean, it was so disheveled, much more so than the normal boy room. He did not know the names of the people that he was even sharing a bathroom with. He didn't know his suite mate. I'm like, Adam, what's wrong with you? We get in the car, and I asked that dreaded question that you just dread asking your kids. I can't believe I was asking him this. Adam, are you on drugs? I mean, he was awful looking. And he looked at me, he said, Mom, I'm not on drugs. That video game did something to me. And I remember exactly where I was. We're driving on the highway, and I'm like, oh my gosh, years and years of pain and frustration. This is a thing. Like, he said he had been in his bed for a week. He had not eaten. He had not gone to class. And by the way, Mom, I'm dropping out of college because he played video games the whole first year that he was there. We were so devastated. We came home. He's sitting on my sofa now, a 19-year-old, right? The only thing worse than a high school boy sitting on your sofa playing video games is a college-age boy that you launched, that you thought we call them boomerang kids, and they come back, right? And they start living in your house again. And he has his hoodie, and he's playing video games. And I said, enough, I cannot stand this. And so if you have an older son who is playing video games, perhaps you are one of those families that I talked to last week that has a 35-year-old son still living in their house, in their basement, playing video games, and he doesn't have a job, and this is a big problem. But if you are that person, you'll understand the pain that I was going through. We love our kids, and I tell young moms all the time, you think you're never going to want to let them go, but you will want to let them go, right? Nod, right? And so he didn't go. He came back, and so I called the military. What are you supposed to do? I mean, this is almost 10 years ago. What are you supposed to do? So my friends were like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I got a gamer sitting on my sofa, and he's 19 years old. And so the recruiter came to the house. This is back when they did that, maybe. I don't know. He knocked on the door. I stepped out there, and I said, sir, you've got to go recruit my son. He's the one sitting on the sofa, and he loves Call of Duty, and he needs a very different Call of Duty. And it was as if this recruiter just wasn't shocked at all, like he had done this before. And he's, oh yeah, I can do this. And so he goes in, he sits at the kitchen table, and he recruits Adam into the military. Thank God that my son found some purpose in his life. And he went into the military for 5 years, went to Iraq, did all the things, came back, and he did finish school. So this is an amazing story because we caught it. Because most families don't catch it. And because of my nursing background, I was just at that place where I knew that something was wrong. What I learned was that this is a chemical addiction. This is just like a gambling addiction, a pornography addiction, a sex addiction, all these different process addictions. It's the same chemical in their brain as it is with everything else, called dopamine, right? Dopamine is dopamine is dopamine. It doesn't matter where you get it. It causes addiction. So you know what I did? I have 3 other kids at home. So I'm like, guys, and 2 of them are boys and my daughter. And I said, okay, guess what? You see what just happened to your brother? This isn't going to happen to you. And I am just that strong of a mom, I guess, or, desperate of a mom. And I told my daughter, sorry, honey, no smartphone. We did this experiment with your brother. Didn't work out so well. We're going to try this other experiment. We're going to see if you can actually grow up in your high school years without a smartphone. So guess what? She got a flip phone. She did just fine. She did fine. And I had gotten to the point where I was over it. I didn't care what any other parent said. I didn't care that the moms were all telling me I was being controlling. I'm like, I'm not being controlling. You're the one that's tagging your daughter and watching her everywhere she goes. I mean, if that's not controlling, I don't know what is. And so then for my twins, for the younger boys, I told them, sorry guys, but you saw what happened to your brother? No video games. We're just not doing it. I'm a terrible video game manager mom. I obviously screwed up, and I'm not going to do it again. And I made this long list of all the life skills that they were going to need to learn that Adam didn't know, that I totally failed on that. And but he was really smart, right? Because we grade ourselves on our kids' grades, right? So I was a straight A mom because he was a straight A kid. No, not so much. So I made this long list for Andrew and Evan, and I said, okay, when you learn to do all these things here, then we'll talk about a video game. And Andrew looked at me. They were about in 5th grade, and he just looked at me with these eyes, and these weepy eyes, and he said, Mom, I'm going to be 18 before I can do all those things. And I said, yes, you are. You're going to be 18, and that's exactly what we're going to do. And that's what we did, and we went through middle school with them, and they were a little irritated. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I have to find the list for you. Yes, Amy, make a note. We'll give her the list. And so they were in middle school, and you know what? They got made fun of a little bit. for a few minutes, right? And they were known as the kids that didn't have smartphones. And in middle school, it's a little yicky, you know, a little tough. But I said, boys, keep your eyes on me. By the time you get to high school, all those girls are going to love you because you're not glued to a video game, because girls want to date boys that don't play video games all day. I learned this from my daughter. So anyway, and I made them play violin. I know. I made them. I didn't let them quit piano. Like I let Adam quit all his music, and he was very musical. And so they were complaining. And then by the time they got to 8th grade, I remember we're sitting at the dinner table, and they were about to graduate from 8th grade. You know that thing in our country where we graduate every year from what we do? And so they were sitting at the table, and Andrew says, Mom, you know, when you're in 6th and 7th grade, people think that you're really lame because we not only don't have a smartphone, but we have to play the violin. But by the time you get to 8th grade, the girls think it's really cool that you play an instrument. I'm like, yeah, remember, keep your eyes on me. So they made it all the way through high school. They are fabulous speakers. They speak at big conferences. If you need them to come to your school and speak, they will. We have different things online on screenstrong.org if you want to go there and listen to them. They talk to kids about how it's just the greatest thing, you know, growing up without all this stuff. And the thing about it is, ScreenStrong is not a screen-free organization, but we help kids and parents prevent and reverse addiction. And it's from screens that are toxic screens. They are not getting addicted to Excel spreadsheets. They're not. They're not getting addicted to screens for education. We've never had a family come in with that problem. But it is video games, social media, and pornography. Those are the 3 areas that we work on. And we are in the business of prevention and helping parents find a path to identify with. That, you know, instead of setting the bar down here, we're setting the bar up here. And I can promise you that for the 48 months of high school, your kid does not need a smartphone. And they really do not need video games. There's so many other things they can do. They're going to have the rest of their life to do those things. They need to have a childhood. And so right now I'm going to zip through some science for you that is found in this curriculum that we have for kids and for parents. It's wonderful. It's all the stuff that you're going to hear right here in a few minutes. We also have just brand new 2 months old is our preschool or elementary school edition, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But my goal is to explain to parents and to kids the brain science around why these addictive technologies, they're not all evil. I mean, a lot of it is, but they're not all evil. But why it's going to be bad for you right now when your brain is developing. And why you have to learn how to play baseball and play the violin and talk to people and look at people in the eye and practice all those life skills right now. Then you're going to be fine on your phone later. But we've got it flip-flopped. We've got it all backwards, and we're giving toddlers iPads, and they're having all these problems, and now everybody has ADHD, and everybody has anxiety and all the things, and it's because they don't have a childhood, and we never got their brain developed the way it's supposed to be. And I feel very strongly about explaining this not only to parents, but explaining it to kids and giving parents the words so you are no longer the bad guy in your house. I can be the bad guy. I'm fine with being the bad guy. So what's the big deal with screens? We know that they're spending 7 hours a day. And with American teenagers, it's over 8 hours a day that they're spending online. And then we wonder, why are they confused about their gender identity? Why are we having all of these social issues? It's because we are no longer the influence in their life. Because we have opened up this door, like we're protecting what they eat. Do you know how we won't even give our kids red dye anymore, right, in their food, but then we give them their smartphones and their video games every night. It doesn't make sense. We're protecting them in the real world so much that we won't even let them on their bike and go ride, but then we give them no protection in the virtual world. Kids need 30 minutes a day in unstructured outdoor play. No one gets this anymore. No child plays outside unless they have some organized sport or activity. They need to be outside for the majority of their day, and it's really hard. So let's talk about 3 things that your child needs to build a healthy brain. And I'm not going to just read all the slides because I have to go through this pretty quickly, but this just gives you an overview of our parent course that we have, and then of course the children's course. So activities shape the brain. I had no idea. I mean, I went to nursing school, a very good nursing school, and I learned a lot, but I never understood how the human brain is developed according to what it does when it's little, right? It's like your child's brain is like wet cement. And so everything they do has the option really to shape their brain. So when I started the boys playing violin at 3, it's because I learned this fact. I'm learning, oh, if you want them to play violin when they're teenagers, then you start them when they're 3 years old, because their brain can learn anything because they have so many neural connections. So everything shapes the brain. The fact that Adam was playing video games really young, that shaped his brain. Exercise and movement is the other thing that's really critical to shape a brain. And we know with our MRI studies, we know that when a child is on a video game, their brain looks very different from a child who is not on a video game. And I'm going to show you just a 1-minute little clip
These triplets are
of
in
this
the study
MRI.
too.
Turn it off now.
Stop, Mom.
You're still playing. You
I
didn't
said
have
I'm gonna watch. Instead, I'm gonna go play outside with Josh.
told you
I'm gonna go play outside with Josh.
That's Noah. You can see why his mom says gaming has more of a hold on him than on his brother and sister. These are the triplets' brain scans. 2 are typical, but Noah's is not. Dr. Rosenberg highlighted areas in red he says represent brain activity involving memory, attention, and decision-making.
Noah's is almost completely gray.
But now look at Noah's brain after 3 weeks unplugged at summer camp.
He's gone from being barely lit up to being highly.
He's highly lit up, yeah.
So this video goes longer, but what this shows is the medical confirmation that when children are on screens, they're using just this very small area of their brain. It is the limbic system. It is the reward pathway. That's what they're using. They're not using all the other areas of their brain. This is why they need to get outside and play and learn and read and do so many other different activities, especially during childhood. So the second thing that I want you to understand today is this thing called neuronal pruning. Probably some of y'all have heard of this already. But again, this is nature, and this is how God made our brain, that when we're born, we have tons of neurons, right? Neuronal connections are happening every second. And then around 3 years old, we have about as many as we're ever going to have. And then between 3 and 15, now what we're going to do is our brain's going to specialize, and we're going to start pruning away all the things that we're not using. This is really scary. This is why a child brought up in a home with 2 languages can learn them both really, really well. But if you take that same child and you don't start teaching them that language till they're 20 or 15, it's going to be harder. And they'll never have that dialect that they need, right? You'll always know, well, that was their second language. And this is why. And so with Adam, I realized I was so sad that I did not develop his brain the way it needed to be developed. It wasn't maybe that every single video game he was playing was awful. Until high school it got really awful. But it was that because he was doing that, he wasn't doing other things, and these other areas were pruning away. And one of the biggest areas that we don't want to prune away is the area where they develop social skills. So the third thing is, it takes 25 years to grow a brain. Do y'all know this? 25 years for the frontal cortex to develop. So we are trying so hard, desperately, we are trying so hard to teach our kids how to use screens. Guys, relax. They're kids. They're not adults. No matter what you do, you can't pound maturity and wisdom into their brain. You cannot. You have to relax. You have to realize their frontal cortex has to grow. It has to fill in. And that's the myelination that occurs. So it's connected, but it's not real connected until about 25 when the myelination is finished. And this is what, this is probably one of the biggest things I think in our culture today that we are missing. We are treating kids like adults. They are not adults. We also believe that it's never going to be our kid, right? I believe that Adam was really smart. And because he was really smart, it had nothing to do, though, with his maturity. And that's what I missed. And I'm sure that there's those here today thinking that, oh, my kid's different. Melanie, they're going to be able to withstand this, and they're going to be able to withstand all the persuasive design temptations and everything about screens. But I'm telling you, they will not be able to. And I don't care how much time you spend talking to them and telling them and having the conversations. And, think about it. If conversations worked with teenagers, we could eliminate teen drug and alcohol use by tonight. because all we'd have to do is just tell them to stop doing it, right? Well, why is it when my twins get in the car that I still have to tell them not to speed every single time they get in the car? They're 21 now, and they just look at me like, ha, ha. And then they get down the road, and one of them will text me, Mom, Evan's speeding. I'm like, I know. And how many of y'all, when your parents gave you a car and they gave you the rules, okay, now you don't turn the radio on, and you can't, you're 16, get in your car, and you can't have your friends in the car. Right? I mean, tell me, how many of you turn the radio on and put your friends in the car? I mean, we don't, kids, they don't follow those rules, and it's okay. And we've got to relax over this. And we just have to not put things in their path that are going to cause mass destruction, like social media and video games. So the executive functioning skills are not something that we can fast forward development. We need to start working on them when they're 3 years old and 4 years old and 5 years old. And then I figured out at the age of 5th grade, guess what? Kids can do their entire laundry. I didn't know that. Did you know that? I'm like, why am I doing laundry, this nasty laundry with these boys that I have? I'm like, oh, their hands work. They can do laundry. So they've been doing laundry since 5th grade, and I think that was one of the reasons why they're so smart today, is because they've been doing laundry since 5th grade. And that's what I told them. I'm like, we're going to make you really smart. And when they graduated their senior year, one of them was a senior class president, the other was a student body president. Guys, they won all the spelling bees. The two of them went every year. It was flipping and flopping. And the moms would come up to me, and they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, they're doing their laundry. They're doing their laundry. They don't have time to get on video games because they have all these life skills they're working on, and all these communication skills that we're working on. And they studied spelling words because they didn't know that was a weird, nerdy thing to do. I'm like, guys, if you just read this list of 1,000 words, you might win. And they're very competitive, right? So what do? They read the list of 1,000 words and they won. It's like, it's not that hard. This is not that hard. But we didn't have screens interrupting all that. And we had baseball games on TV, and we watched family movies. We're not a screen-free family, but we got rid of the toxic screens. So there's some really basic facts about teenage brains. Like I just said, they're still under construction. Their judgment center is not completely developed, and they are shifting between childhood thinking skills and adult thinking skills. And you deal with this all the time if you have a teenager. They do some of the dumbest stuff, but then they do some of the smartest stuff. And that's why it's all back and forth, and this is why it is a terrible time for them to waste their time on meaningless screen activity. The biggest problem that I think developmentally that's happening, if you can just listen to this one thing, this is the biggest thing after 10 years that I have learned in our culture and all the problems with screen time that we're having. This is the problem. Our kids have detached from their families. They have reattached over here to their gaming world because they become the person in their gaming world, and they've attached their social media world, and we are seeing the fallout of that in our culture with all the weirdest problems that we have ever seen. It is because of an attachment problem. We're having a huge attachment problem. And I don't mean helicoptering parents, and I don't mean over-controlling parents. I'm talking about healthy attachment that the human brain has to have to develop properly. Otherwise, we end up with tons of mental health problems if we don't attach in childhood and in our teen years to our family. We have a lot of research on peer-oriented teens and a lot of research on parent-oriented teens, and there is a big difference between kids that are raised with their parents as their primary guide, their primary influence, which I know everyone in this room agrees that parents should be raising kids. So how does screen use change brains? We're not talking about, doing Excel spreadsheets like I said a minute ago. We are talking about interactive screens. So if your child is reading something on a screen, that's one thing. If they're playing video games and shooting people in Fortnite and just constantly, let me just say though a minute about this whole the whole violence that we are allowing on video games is unbelievable. We would never let our kids see a movie that had the things in that they're actually playing in their video game, and I'll talk about that in a second. But an interactive screen is a screen that requires an activity back from you. So on your phone, you're interacting with it. On your video game, you're interacting with it. On your school screen, not so much. You're having to do your homework. That's a little bit different. So there's physical changes that happen in your child's brain and in their body when they are on a screen. They have eye problems, they have low blood sugar. Adam used to have big bags of Skittles on his desk when he played video games because their blood sugar bottoms out. Then they have to eat the Skittles to have the energy to keep going, because it requires a lot of energy to play a video game, and it's very depressing, and there's a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress. Do you know that boys who play video games who don't get enough time outside with their muscles, their testosterone is lower, their muscle mass is lower? You know, is this surprising that they're looking at the transgender world, they're looking at all these other crazy things when they don't have the testosterone? And this is when I'm talking to kids, I say, do you want testosterone? You got to get off your game, right? You got to go use your muscles. The second thing is the chemical changes in the brain. And this is the biggest problem that I did not understand when Adam was going through his addiction, the flood of dopamine. So dopamine is the big buzzword now in the last couple of years in our culture, but do you really understand it? I really encourage you to understand the science behind dopamine. And we explain this to kids, and it's fabulous when they understand this, that living in this green zone, when you have just the right amount of dopamine, so for example, Andrew and Evan, just because that's my example, their life was so different. They got their dopamine from playing outside, from digging for worms, catching a fish. I remember Evan coming up to the house when he, I don't know, was 10 years old, and he said, Mom, there is nothing in the world that is as exciting as catching a fish. And I'm like, yes, you're right. And then one time Andrew was playing his violin. I was picking him up from the lesson, and y'all, let me tell you, they were like, Mom, I hate my violin. I don't want to play it anymore. But I'm like, I just smile, and I'm like, I know. But you're going to keep playing until you get to quit when you're 18. And then they didn't quit when they were 18, by the way. So I'm picking Andrew up from a lesson, and I'm pulling in the driveway at the teacher's house, and here comes Andrew, and he's running down the driveway. Mom, Mom, and he's running. He comes over to the window. He doesn't even get in the car. Mom, I got it. I got the song. I mean, he was so excited. It was like he won. He won violin, that day. And it was so wonderful for me to see that dopamine develop in their brains. Because with Adam, what would happen when your dopamine gets too high, because see, all those are just normal amounts of dopamine. That's what you do when you do fun things in the real world. It's normal amounts of dopamine. When you do abnormal things in the virtual world, your dopamine's really high, and that's where the addiction comes in. But guess what? It eventually drops. And when it would drop for Adam, he would be so depressed. And this is why gamers are so depressed. And y'all, there are so many suicide cases with gaming. It is so heartbreaking. But he would get so depressed. He was even depressed at one point in about 8th or 9th grade, where on his Christmas list, he wrote all the games that he wanted that year for Christmas, and then he wrote antidepressants. He wrote that on his Christmas. I didn't even get it. I mean, what a blind mom I was. I'm like, why are you writing antidepressants? I didn't even know why he was writing that, but he was really crying out for help even then. The role of dopamine in screen addiction is so clear in science. It is so clear. You play your game, you're on your phone, you get too much dopamine, you get really excited, but then it bottoms out, right? Because dopamine, eventually, your brain goes back to homeostasis, and then you get sad, and then you crave it, and then you do it again, and then over time, what happens is nothing in the real world is fun anymore. Nothing. And with your daughters on their phones, the real world's not that fun. With your son, when they're playing video games all day, nothing you can do is going to be as exciting as that game. And we have physicians that work with us, and this is Dr. Dunkley. I'm going to play this just for a minute, talking
Screen time
about
actually is very much
screen
like a
time.
drug. In fact, it behaves in many ways like a stimulant, not unlike caffeine or nicotine or even cocaine. So it actually raises arousal levels, and it also releases a large amount of dopamine, which is the feel-good chemical that's involved in all addictions. It actually changes electrical activity, it raises stress hormones, both the fight or flight and cortisol, the chronic stress. It disrupts the body clock, and it even shifts brain blood flow. So there's more blood flow in the primitive part of the brain and less blood flow in the higher thinking part of the brain. So when you combine all these things together, you can see how the brain is going to start to malfunction.
Okay, so we've got a whole bunch of videos from her that y'all need to watch. It's so good. But that's just a touch of her explaining the malfunctioning that's happening when kids are on screens. And then we're just getting mad at them because we think it's a behavioral problem. And it's not a behavioral problem. Your child is getting addicted to the chemical. So the behavior problems that we see are, the isolation, the mood swings, and, it can get confusing because it's like, well, that's how teenagers are anyway. I'm telling you, that's not how teenagers are anyway. I did one sort of with the bad experiment and the other 3 with the better experiment. And this isn't normal for teenagers to be so isolated and upset all the time. Our younger kids ended up spending so much more time with us. At the dinner table, we'd have 2-hour dinner conversations. They talked to us all the time. When Melissa would come home from school, she would tell us all the tea from the day. And because she wasn't on social media, right, she didn't have to tell all that. She would just tell us everything. It got to the point where parents would just call me and, what's going on? Because they knew that I knew because she wasn't talking on social media. The emergency room visits for self-harm is unbelievable. I have a good friend who's an adolescent pediatrician, and he said, it's just unbelievable what I deal with in the ER on the weekends. It's all self-harm. Every teenager in Charlotte, which is where we live, he says, I think every teenager is cutting themselves. I mean, it's just so sad. And then the mental health changes. We know there's a lot of mental health problems. The suicide, I don't know if you've ever been to a suicide funeral for a teenager. It's the most horrible thing that I've ever experienced in my life. It is the reason why I get up every morning and I continue to do this work, because there is such a dark side to the mental health problems that are happening because we're overexposing our kids to things they should never be exposed to. And no amount of maturity or wisdom or good advice from us is going to help. It's not going to help. They are being traumatized. They are having traumatic experiences watching all these horrible things on their video game and watching all the horrible things on social media. And then we're taking them to doctors and we're trying to get drugs for them to fix it. And we're the problem. I was the problem. My husband and I, we were the problem with Adam. It wasn't his fault. It wasn't Adam's fault. And when we were discussing the best age to get a smartphone for Melissa, I thought, well, what is the best thing to do? I'm going to ask some moms that are older, that have girls in high school, because Melissa was in middle school at the time, and we're at a baseball game, and the moms are sitting on the bench with me, and I said, tell me, I'm thinking about getting Melissa a smartphone next year. This is back before I was really fully educated. And she said, oh, yeah, we all have, our girls all have smartphones, and they were in the same high school. And she reaches in her purse, and she pulls out a card, like she had a stack of them. She had a stack of cards in her purse, and it was a doctor. And she said, here, this is who we use. We all use this Dr. So-and-so, and we would recommend that you go ahead and get her started on anti-anxiety medication before you give her social media, because she's going to be on it. So you might as well get her the anti-anxiety medication before you start. And she was in 8th grade. I'm like, what? Like, does this, and I'd already screwed up Adam, and I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't sound right. And I told them, I'm like, is this weird? She goes, no, Melanie, she has to have it because they all have it. And I just remember thinking, okay, well, she's going to get a flip phone. We're not doing social media because I'm not giving my daughter drugs just so she can be on social media. That's a whole nother thing. I can talk to you about that later. But this is why our science-based recommendations out there in culture, you are going to hear a lot of parent opinion about this issue. And I just urge you desperately to go get the science before you, I know sometimes we think, oh, go get the science. We have like bad connotations about that word sometimes. But get the child development science. Understand how a child uses a screen. Because a child does not use their phone to order groceries from the Harris Teeter. Okay, that's not what they use their phone for. They use it very different. So according to medical recommendations, children don't need smartphones. That means children. That means 0 to 18. And according to the American Academy of Pediatrics and all this on cartoon violence and video games and the whole thing about violent video games, no one under the age of 18 should be playing violent video games either, because it is a classical conditioning for violence. We are training our boys over and over and over to kill. This is why I don't think kids need to play video games, and unless you're going to sit there and play with them and play, Pac-Man or something, then go for it. But we can't control what they're doing on a video game because it's just the wild, wild west. So we suggest that kids just have flip phones. The flip phones are coming back. Okay, they're coming back, right? I mean, I'm not going to lie. Verizon even has a flip phone now. Like, after so many years, they took it out, and now they have it. And the guy said, yeah, a lot of parents are buying these flip phones again. I'm like, yeah. It's what the pendulum does. It goes way out here, and we do all the stupid stuff, and now it's coming back to center, right? This is what happens in culture. So just know that if someone tells you to get your kid a smartphone but not let them have social media, just know that that's a lie. You can't give a child a smartphone and tell them not to have social media. So I could spend a whole other hour telling you why. Just come talk to me at the table if you still want to argue with this. Because once a child has an internet-connected device, you're going to have enough trouble on their iPad and on their laptop at school, and that's a whole other thing. But the bigger the screen, the easier it is to manage. Just remember that. The smaller the screen, the worse it is. Because I'm going to bet, if I was a betting man, that you would, if you put your teenager in your den, you know, with, like, our screens are all this big today, right? And they're in the den. I can guarantee you that he's not going to be searching for pornography on that screen because it's too big. So, but he is going to be searching on his little bitty phone that's all private and hidden. The declining social skills, fewer friends. This is data. This is the statistics. Our kids are lonely. They don't know how to have friends anymore because it's really impossible to have friends on a phone. It's very impossible to have friends and to make friends on a video game because you're not in person. When you're not in person with someone making eye contact and experiencing life together, you're only going to be a little bit of a friend. You're going to be more like an acquaintance. You're not going to be a friend. And so our kids are very depressed and lonely today because they really don't have any friends. Andrew and Evan, on the other hand, not that they're perfect, nothing's perfect about my house, but what we did right was we did teach them how to have friends and how to be a friend and how to make a friend. And so every Friday night, they were allowed to bring all their friends over to our house. And I traded all my counseling budget that we had for Adam for food. Because when you have boys, you have to have a lot of food. And I figured that out. Oh, this is so much easier than arguing about video games. I'm making food, lots of food. And they still come. My boys are in college now, and you know what? Their friends still come over to my house looking for food. And I love it. It's so great. So they learned how to be people. They learned how to have relationships. And then we wonder why they can't stop when you have kids that are stuck on their screens. It's because the attention engineers on the other side of the phone and the other side of the video game know all about human behavior. They are scientists. They get paid lots of money to keep your kids and to keep us, all right, glued to our screens. They're called attention engineers. And in this curriculum, we explain this really well to kids in a really positive way. Like, we're not a Debbie Downer organization. We're really fun, and we show them, and the kids are like, you're kidding me? Is this what they're doing? And we're like, yeah, so you need to be better than that. And they change your motivation. They make it fun. They make it really simple, and they put triggers in, and we have a whole lesson in teaching kids how to do this. And I would urge you, if you even just go home now, or when you leave the room, not right now, please don't pick up your phone right now, but if you go and pick up your phone and change your settings to black and white, I don't know if you've done this before, you really won't look at your phone that much. It's not that fun when it's not. That's a persuasive design element. That's just one of the little ones, but there's a lot of things that we teach kids about. And then with social media, the heavy risk, there's so many risks. And so in medicine, whenever we're doing a procedure, what do? We have to weigh the risk and the benefits. And if the risks are higher than the benefits, then we don't do the procedure. Like, this is logic. This is the facts. And so with social media and with videos, the risks aren't worth it. I'm telling you, it is not worth it. With girls struggle more with social media, right? I think we can all kind of agree, and there's a reason for that. They use social media very different than the way boys use social media. Boys like to just share stuff everybody has created. Girls create the stuff that the boys share. So boys don't have as much invested, right? But for a girl, she has invested 4 hours in that reel, and 4 hours in making her face look right, and 4 hours in her outfit. And then if somebody doesn't like her video, she's devastated. She's absolutely devastated. And the rejection pain at 15 for a girl is higher than it will ever be in her whole life. And then what do? We give her a smartphone. And we say, honey, here, go get rejected for, every hour of the day for your whole high school experience. They can't handle it. And it's really sad because the girls who are the pretty girls with the right hair and the right nose and the right body and the right everything else, if you know what I mean, they're the ones who are going to look like they're fine, but everybody else is going to suffer. It is the perceived flaws, the comparison. We are devastating our girls. But what happens with girls is at least we are still seeing in our culture that they are still moving out of their mother's basement, right? And they're going to college, right? And they're getting jobs. The warning sign for your daughter if she's on a phone is that if she's struggling, is that she's attached to it. You know how it becomes an appendage, and if you lose it or take it away, they lose their cotton picking mind. That's a problem. That's a problem. That should never be. They get a lot of anxiety and stress over it. They're lying about it. This is really common. So if your child is suffering from any of these things, you need to take a look. So the best age for video games, and I've got about 10 minutes. I'm going to try to wrap this up really fast. The best age to allow games, what did I say before? 18. That's what the medical science says. That if you want to go to the arcade and play Pac-Man, that's fine. If there's a Wii game or some kind of Mario thing from back in the 80s, you know, that's not what we're talking about, what kids are doing today. You know that's not what they're doing. What they're doing, we're going to hear from Adam actually here just for a second. Let's hear from Adam about what it's like.
It's just a slow kind of change over time. It's like the frog getting boiled. What happens is like your reality shifts, and what happens is it more turns into like the game is playing you instead of you playing the game, because the game is your new world and everything outside of the game is fake. And it's just like a pain to have to go like, oh my gosh, I have to go eat, you know, like I can't believe that I have to like leave my world and go do something else in this other whatever dull world that doesn't give me the massive dopamine hits that the video game does, because that's really what it is. I mean, there's nothing that exists that's natural that's going to give you that level of dopamine, because it's a drug. Like that's what people I think don't really realize. Like heroin doesn't make you high, your brain makes you high. You know, it just either excites or inhibits certain things in your brain. I mean, your brain has all this stuff in it to make you high. So, I mean, that's just what it is. It's just it's a drug addiction. And that's basically what it was, you know. It's all the signs, you know, I had to hide it. I was feeling bad. I was feeling sorry for myself. I couldn't do anything. Obviously, I'd stayed in my room for a whole week and didn't even leave. Like, I mean, that's just what it was. It was just, depressed. It was just a drug addiction. And it's that, again, it's just that, I mean, that's the best way that I can describe it, is it really is, like, you got to try to understand, like, to people that are addicted to video games, like, the real world isn't the real world.
And I think this is why we end up with all the tragedies that have happened in our world, with school killings and all the things that have happened with the assassins. Lieutenant Colonel Grossman, who does all the work on this, his book Assassination Generation, which is just if you have a boy and they play video games, or if you have a boy and they don't play video games, you've got to get this book called Assassination Generation. It's been out for a long time. And he studies this, and every single school shooter has been a gamer. Across every platform, they've all been gamers. And it doesn't shock me. We are classically training kids to kill without any of the safety measures. It's not the guns. It's the way when you get into Fortnite and you get into these games where you're killing your best friend 5,000 times, you're going to lose and have some desensitization that occurs. Yeah. Yeah, we have it on our website. Come by our booth and it is serious. This is serious. We are not fear-mongering. We are not over-exaggerating. There is a world that many of y'all are probably touching on a little bit that you don't even know, and I didn't even know. And I recommend that you go play video games with your son. If your son is playing video games and if your daughter's on social media, you know when you're trying to lose weight or you have a diet problem, the first thing they tell you to do is to do a journal of the food that's going into your body. So I tell parents, do a journal of what's going into your kid's brain when they're on a video game. And I don't know if you know, but even Minecraft has all kind of sex mods. You can learn how to make a functional penis in Minecraft. There's lots of porn in Minecraft that people don't understand. There is so much, I think, that if you sit down, even here with Fortnite, this is Fortnite. Did y'all know this is Fortnite? This is violent. And I am not here to tell you that, oh, I'm just this lame little mom who can't handle violence. Our kids should not be doing this. We absolutely should not be doing this. They are killing their friends. You know, in order to win the game, you have to blow their head off. And the American Academy of Pediatrics says that cartoon violence does the same thing to their brain that regular violence does. They don't even know the difference. Yeah.
Two things. So my wife was like, wait, they're killing each other's friends. And I'm like, yeah, because in the game, all your friends are logging in.
Yes.
And you're literally killing your friends.
Yes.
And then you're laughing about it.
You're laughing
If you
about it.
watch a movie and someone dies, at least in the movie, people are
Crying about it. Yes.
No,
You're killing. Yes, and this is the desensitization that's occurring, and this is why Lieutenant Colonel Grossman is so, I mean, he works with the military, he does all the training he wrote the book On Killing. Anyway, it's just a deeper thing, too deep for me to get into right now, but the addictive hooks in a video game are so sophisticated. This is not Pac-Man anymore. This is not what they're doing. So this is how you train military personnel to go kill people, because you know what? It is not a normal thing to kill another human being, so we have to train them. But in the military, there's all the safety measures around it. Out in your basement or in your son's bedroom, there's no safety measures around it. And it becomes an alternate world like what Adam was living in. So boys get overstressed, they get very aggressive. And the lack of motivation among what I call the basement generation, which are these older boys, older teenage boys that are not finishing school, they're not going to college, they're living in their parents' basement. This is what happens when they go to college. I want you to look at this picture on the right. When Adam went into the military, he came back, he finished college, his first semester back, he sent me this picture. He said, Mom, you're not going to believe it. And these are kids in a lecture playing video games. Right? Now, he said that these kids did drop out. Of course they did. How can you play video games during your lecture and pass college? You can't do it. The other dark side of gaming is the cyberbullying, the online predators, the pornography. That's a whole other thing. And, of course, the gambling. Kids much younger are gambling. This is how gaming takes over their life. We have these graphics in this book. This is so fabulous to sit down and explain this to your kids. You become kind of the scientist, and you're not the bad guy anymore. You're just saying, well, I don't know. It's not me. It's just science, honey. This is what it's saying. And we go through the steps here of how it happens. This is Evan and Andrew's life was on the left. Adam's life was on the right. And at the end of the day, every day, you would trade the left here for the right. And if Andrew and Evan were up here talking to you, they would say, it is so worth it. It is so worth it to be at the top of your class everywhere you go. It is so worth it to get every job that you apply for, just simply because you have social skills and you're interesting and you've actually done things in your life, like they know how to play golf, I don't know. They learned all these things. The common mistakes that we make is we start too young. We use gaming as a reward, and we use smartphones. This can be interchanged with smartphones. We're using games, believe it or not, in our smartphones to shelter our kids, when in reality we're causing them the most harm. We're clueless about what they're doing. We're creating this easy access, and we're ignoring our gut. And we have got to start standing up for our kids, and we got to help them stand out from the crowd, because that's how we're going to build leaders. We will never build leaders if we don't teach them how to be bold. I don't have time to go through all of this, the warning signs, the stunted social skills I put at the top of the list, because I do believe that is one of the worst lost potential areas that we're dealing with, plus the loss of leadership. So we talk about screens in school for a minute, but like I said, we don't have time. We started a little bit late, but the attention fragmentation, the fact that kids are not, this boy right here, we had him on our podcast, he actually watched thousands and thousands of YouTube videos in his whole school. Like, he didn't even go to school. He went to school to watch, YouTube videos on his computer. So we have a phone-free school guide for all the schools that you're involved with. We have a whole guide for teachers and for principals to take phones out, which that's a big thing. But we believe that without this curriculum, it's not going to work. It's going to be a mandate, and it's not going to be something that's adopted by your communities. Kids need to understand why. We also have posters, and we have all the stuff for the schools. But the solutions, let me just go into the solutions with anything in culture. This is the solution. You have to start with removing the stress first. That's the first thing you do in medicine when we're dealing with a crisis. If somebody comes into the ER, you've got to remove the stress. Then you've got to provide education for why did that thing happen and why did that go wrong. And if you've got diabetes or if you were on a drug overdose, we have to give you education. And then we have to build community around it. We have to find you like-minded people that you can hang out with so you can go in recovery and get better. And that's what we do with Screen Strong. We encourage parents to remove the access to the thing, because remember, video games and smartphones are not mandatory for kids. Believe it or not, say that after me. It is not mandatory for kids. We all think that, right, it is not mandatory. They're literally going to have the rest of their life, right? And if you raise them without that stress, and if you raise them with you being the main coach in their life and the main influence, they will be fine. They will be more than fine. They will be able to just run a small country one day. I'm not kidding. And it's just like when my boys kept winning all these spelling bees. I said, look, guys, all you do is just study a little. You got it. Like you got the world on your palm of your hand. So you've got to lead like a coach. You've got to take your parent hat off. The parent hat that wants to get all emotional and upset and cry when your kids are upset. You got to take that hat off. You got to put your coach's hat on. And dads, you'll relate to this. If you have a sports team, if you are a coach of a big football team, you don't really care about emotionally what your kids are feeling and what your team is feeling. You go back to the basics. If you're losing in baseball, you learn the basics again. And you do workouts and you do core exercises. And it's not fun and you don't care because you're the coach and you want to win. And the kids will respect you, right? And so you've got to treat this very different than you do other parenting things. You got to hit the pause button. There's no way your kids can heal or get better or learn how to use social media or video games if they are on social media and video games. Just like you got to talk them about pornography, and the way you do that is you don't show them porn. That is not how you teach your kids about pornography, right? It's the same principle. You have to focus on life skills. You have to reconnect your family, and you have to dare to be different. And these are all the things that we do at Screen Strong that we help you to do. If you go by our booth, we have a ton of free information for you, about 12 free downloads that we have for you. And then you can take a look at our curriculum. I do want you to take a look at the newest one we have for the elementary because it's not even out yet, and I'll show you. We have an activity book that goes with it. It is fabulous. So no longer do you need to give your phone to your kid in the back seat or when you're waiting at the doctor's office. We have all sorts of things for you to do to help your kids. And I'm going to stop because my time is up. But I will take... Can I do like one or two questions? We have what? 10 minutes. Oh, we have 10 minutes for questions. Okay. Okay. Well, we'll do one here and then one over here. Okay, right here.
So, my husband.
Yes.
Yes. Literally took the PlayStation when we came here.
Oh. Oh, no. Just.
I cannot get him on board to cut this crap out.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, you send him by my booth, and I will take the PlayStation. The booth is right around the corner. Screen Strong. It's right around the corner. I am so sorry. This is a whole nother thing for men. Now, we deal mostly with families with kids because you know what? By the time you're a husband, no offense to the husbands, but your brain is kind of cemented over. And so is ours. So is our mom brain too. And it's very hard. This is why addiction is very hard to undo when you're older. Did y'all know that 90% of all adult addictions started in the teenage years? 90. And it's because of the little bitty bit of the brain science that you learned, that the brain is molding, it's forming, it's wet cement, the neurons are being pruned away, the things that you're not using are being pruned away, which is a real bummer, and the things that you are using are being kept. So Adam, to this day, still, he doesn't game anymore, thank God, we have gotten all that, but he struggles. He's an attorney now. And you might say, oh, it's a wonderful story, and it's all, well, not so much, because he's very good, he's very smart, he's very good at his job, but his social skills are just so awkward still because he didn't grow up doing social skills and the life skill part. But it's very hard. I don't want to be discouraging, But we do have a dad now that's working with us. It's doing, we have a Substack now that he just wrote a couple weeks ago. If you go to Be Screen Strong, get your husband to read that one. It's by Dan. He did a fabulous job on that. He's on my podcast. I do a podcast every week. I don't know. You have to ask them. Okay, over here, real quick.
I'm just wondering what your feelings are. I know you mentioned interactive screens versus just green screens. What is your thought on interactive, like, educational materials? So, for example, my daughter's school, I haven't looked into it. She's only in kindergarten, but they have something called Dreambox, which is like math stuff.
No, bad. Math is, did you say math?
Math.
That's the worst thing you can do. I have very good friends that teach in a D1 school, college, professors, and they are now having to use high school math books because no one can do math. And the reason why, it's the brain science. When your brain types a problem, have you ever tried to type a math problem? Like, it's very hard. Your brain has to write it. It has to track the numbers. There's so much that happens when you write. We have a whole section, or please come by and look at this curriculum. We have a whole section that teaches kids why they need to write on paper, and especially math. That has to use different parts of their brain, and when you write the problem, that's 3/4 of getting the answer when you're typing it. But teachers love it, and kids love it, and parents love it, and we've got to just get this education out there that it's not working. Obviously it's not working. Look at the nation's report card. I would not put them on screens at all, and not in elementary.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed this. You said it quickly, so I want to make sure I heard it. The mass school shootings, they all have something in common. They all were addicted to video games.
Yes, they all were big-time gamers. You can go back into their gaming history on Discord and on their social media. That is the common thread all the way through. The book Assassination Generation gives you all the data, all the research on it. It is the most and then once again, last month,
That's never talked about, so
no,
thank
it's
you.
never talked about, because the gaming industry is bigger than Hollywood. It's bigger than, the money behind the gaming industry is so huge. And y'all know what I'm talking about, right, with that. This and then here.
Hi, I have the same problem as that lady. My grandson plays video games. My daughter is always trying to cut the screen time, but the dad is always playing.
I know.
And he plays Roblox.
Oh my gosh.
He plays.
Oh my
he's
gosh.
going to be 10 this
Oh
month.
no, I'm so sorry.
It breaks my heart,
Yeah.
and when he's over my house, I have to argue with him all the time to
No,
get off the screen and get off the phone. I have to take his phone, and I don't understand what they make it look so innocent. The
Yes, they do.
Roblox. What
Yes.
is detrimental about Roblox?
Horrible. Who they're talking to is what's so horrible. I even had a Wall Street Journal reporter talk to me one day. We were talking, and she said, yeah, well, her 8-year-old son, he's very mature, and when he's on Roblox and on Discord, where people are sharing, naked videos of their girlfriends, my son is the one that tells them to take it down. I'm like, what in the world are you saying? Like, so what? She's like, he's so mature. And I said, well, give him a couple more years and he won't be so mature, and he's going to be asking for it. You have no jurisdiction over what happened. That's the problem with Roblox. We can talk about that more. No, it's real messages. It's not even subliminal. It's just like we would never allow our child to go downtown here in Orlando and go into a bar with 30, 40, 50-year-old men. We would never do that. Would we do that? Oh, but then we give them Roblox and we give them video games. It's the same thing. And they're getting very sick.
Good morning. I'm Mrs. Munoz, chapter chair for Palm Beach. And I want to thank you for being here, because you just touched on a subject when you mentioned education.
Yes.
It's very true that in our public schools, they're starting to implement something called Khan Academy.
Mm-hmm.
And Khan Academy has a virtual IA component, which is Cognito. And for my child who's special needs, he has an IEP, his brain doesn't function learning through a screen, let
Most
alone
brains
writing,
don't.
let alone
No.
trying to write a paragraph.
Right.
And I had
Right.
to fight with the school district for almost 7 months to get him off of that online
Yes.
program
Yeah.
and put in his IEP that he could
cannot
only
have screens.
take tests writtenly.
Yeah.
And
And-
now, thank God, he's in a math class where they're actually teaching him pen to paper.
Yes.
But what you said about education, like, I commend you for saying that, because our children, on top of being on screens, at home, unfortunately, at school, they're doing the same thing. And for the special needs communities, they already have so many developmental delays.
That's
They
right.
don't need to be taught
But
on the
it's
computer.
not, I
so
totally, 100%, it's not just the special needs kids, it's every child. This is the worst thing. And I'm not trying to be like an alarmist. I mean, I'm just giving you the facts. This is not an emotional argument. This is a factual argument. It is the, yeah.
Last question.
Oh, last question.
Yeah.
Okay, well, go ahead.
Hello, yes, I noticed you mentioned before you weren't 100% screen-free in your household, but you did obviously set your limits. What would your opinion be on like YouTube's like educational songs for children in like foreign languages and everything
The
to
only
help them
thing
learn?
that I would say with YouTube, especially the younger ages and whatnot, the only thing that we allowed any of that for is when there's co-viewing, when Andrew was trying to fix the car and he had to go learn how to change the oil and whatnot, or I mean, he's our fixer guy and he's the engineering guy. And whenever you can use a YouTube to learn something, if you're co-viewing, if you're there, because even Andrew says, and let me just tell you now, even with my kids now, the younger boys, we have this thing called Canopy, which by the way, we love it. It's the only thing that I approve of as far as a filter kind of thing. And even when they're in college now, Andrew says, Mom, you know, turn Facebook off, turn this what off. We're their accountability partner. They can't handle it. They know they can't handle it. He had to get on YouTube for something even recently, and he called me, Mom, go ahead and turn it back off. I can't handle it. There's too many things. If you let a child alone, you know what happens on YouTube. Every one of you know. We give our kids these little iPads, and then, they're watching the cute little mouse video, and then all of a sudden, what are they watching? It just keeps feeding more and more and more, and you're in there doing the dishes. You don't even know what they're doing. This is why it doesn't work. The co-viewing is fine, and when my boys had their laptops in high school, they'd come home, and guess what, guys? They sat in the kitchen with the back of their head facing me and the front of their screen, so I could see what they were doing. I wasn't being the army sergeant about it, but I was present. And that's what I wasn't with Adam, and it really came back to bite us. And I'm just telling you what this pathway looks like. I'm telling you what the potholes are. I am like if y'all were driving on a highway and I'm calling you and I'm saying there is a big wreck and you need to take this detour. This is what I'm telling you. The detour is so much easier. It's so much better. Your kids are healthier. And guess what? By the time they turn 18, 21, whatever, when they go to college, they're fine. They are more than fine. They are not binging. They are not, oh, you were with me, Mom, now I'm going to go play video games and get on my phone. It's not their thing. You have created a different brain. You have structured their activities. They fall in love with the real dopamine activity producing, things in life. And that's what you're after. It's not going to be perfect, but I'm telling you what's not functional is giving kids video games and smartphones and letting them run wild and not having it. And the other thing is, please don't believe that any of these parental controls work. They do not work. We got burned on so much of that. No. I did not stay away from a smartphone. I am the parent. I am the coach, right? The coach doesn't go do the same thing the team does, and they have to learn that respect, and they have to learn that. And you have to teach your kids to be bold. But I know that all of y'all have lots of influence over the schools that you're in. This work has been done. It's been vetted. We have worked so hard on this. Please don't go try to recreate everything. Just use what we've done.
And I want to let you know as well, we've already talked to them. We'll be introducing the ambassadors through the chapter chair support. So we're planning on getting you connected so that you can have local ambassadors come as well to be able to speak and support you. So
and
you
we
can get this
have
curriculum
about 50, 60 ambassadors right now that go across the country and speak and do this presentation. And the big one is 3 hours. So anyway, all right, thank you.
Thank you all.